Welcome once again. My name is Kim Willis, and this is the first in a series called The Power of Two. All right. So it's an interview series, and basically what I'll be doing over X number of months, I'll be featuring different people who are members of the Tri-Builder community group, members who have what I think is an interesting story to tell. So I've got Will Banks. Can you hear me, Will?
Yeah,
you there, Will?
And I can see you.
Okay, oh, that's great. All right, well, I'll hand it over to you very soon, but I'll just do the introductions here. Yeah, hi, Annabelle. Great, good to see you. Now, as I've mentioned before, when I run a Facebook Live using the intermediary software called BeLive, when I run it to a group, I cannot see who is making the comments. I cannot see who is watching it or anything like that. So unlike when I do it through my Facebook page, my business page, I see everybody there. But with the group, sorry, I can't do it. So if other people who come onto the call, well, you won't. I'll have to remind you. I'll have to tell you again. But basically, even if you're just watching this and you're not showing up as a kind of an anonymous guest or an anonymous participant, please, if you want to say something, and I welcome your comments, please say your name, because I cannot see your name, and it's always nice to know who the comment is coming from. So now, of course, this is being recorded, and most of the views for this interview will come from the replays. I'm quite sure about that. We're broadcasting this at 8 p.m. my time, which is 2 p.m. Will's time on Thursday. For our Australian friends, it's more like 11 p.m., so it's getting very late for them, because I do have a number of Aussies who support me. And Kiwis, it's even worse. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And for our Americans, particularly those who are on the West Coast, well, let me think. It's 8 p.m. Okay, so it's 9 a.m. for people who are based on the East Coast. That's Eastern time. And many people are at work. And for people who are in, say, California, Pacific time, it's 6 a.m. That's right. Yeah, 6 a.m. So in some respects, it's a difficult time slot for us. And I'm certainly when we have more people from the UK and perhaps from Europe as members of the group, we'll be able to have more people real-time watching it. But the reality is that most people will pick this up on the replay. All right, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Will. Will has a very interesting background. He basically is an engineer by profession, and he had a very long and fruitful career. And what makes it especially interesting for non-engineers, if you like, is that a lot of the work that he did meant that he was located in various locations around the world, and some of those locations were more exotic than others. So I'm hoping that Will can share one or two stories from those experiences. So Will, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll make you a bit more prominent on the screen here. Whoa, wait. There we go. And what I'll do is I will also remove the border so that it doesn't crowd out the screen. And let me just hide the little banner there. I'll just hide that. And okay, let me hand it over to you, Will. Okay, Will. Why don't you start at the beginning? Just a little summary of your journey. why you chose engineering, maybe a little bit from your earlier years before you got into the profession, and just track us through the story right up until perhaps you know, coming back to the UK and then looking for another way to generate an income. So I'll hand it over to you. Let's start from the beginning and go from there.
Well, thanks for that introduction, Kim. Firstly, I must thank you for the opportunity to appear on your Facebook Live. The member series, I hope, will be popular, and I'm particularly honoured to get invited to start this series off. So thanks enormously for that. I just heard at the beginning of the session when you went live that Annabelle's on the line, which is great. You know, Annabelle keeps me on my toes all the time. If I let my engineering sort of instincts move too far into marketing expertise and I get it wrong, she's very quick to tell me. So she's a great mentor and inspiration in this field for me, and I appreciate her very much coming to listen in. The first thing, I suppose, is I'm 71 years old. I've had a pretty good life for the most part, but there have been downs as well as predominantly having a blessed life. I've had a very long education in the post-war years after the Second World War. We got benefit of proper apprenticeships and things. So to become a master of your trade, you had to traditionally spend 5 years learning it. And I think there's very, very few people get that opportunity now. Well, I sort of disrupted my apprenticeship to go to university. So in total, I've had 9 years of education and training before I was let loose on industry and commerce. So education is a big thing to me, but it's one that people get less chance to dedicate time to these days because we're living in a much faster life. But my basic profession is engineering, and I spent my early years in the North Sea building oil platforms and pipelines. There were massive projects in the North Sea, but I was getting towards the end of the last century. I observed projects getting smaller and smaller, so I've always been interested in travel, and I spent a year in Japan in 1980. In fact, my first daughter was born in Tokyo. But having got to the stage at the end of the last century, projects were beginning to become smaller in size and less of them. I decided to move overseas, and I went to Singapore, basically on a project for Vietnam, which is very close to you and a country you know, of course, Kim. That fascinated me, to be honest. The Vietnamese are so different to any other sort of peoples I know. Very, very talented people, and they made me very, very welcome. They tend to respect the Western people, and they're very respectful of age, etc. So I was treated like a king, and really thoroughly enjoyed my time there. From Vietnam, I moved around Southeast Asia and spent time in Indonesia and Hong Kong, all on very interesting engineering construction projects. Before ending up in the end of my career, the last 7 years was in Azerbaijan, building pipelines predominantly for in the Caspian Sea. And that brought me up to retirement in 2017. So travel has been a real gift for me. I've been able to do it whilst I've been engaged with my profession. So I've seen many cultures and experienced lots of good food along the way. Really happy times. Being separated family has been an interesting thing too, and you know, the travel and overseas work has its toll, and I've been through 2 marriages rather unsuccessfully. But I've got 2 children whom I'm very grateful for, and they're both doctors. One's a doctor of medicine, and the other's a doctor of philosophy. So I've always said that one will look after my health, and the other will look after my wealth. So I think I couldn't ask for much more than that. But I got to a stage after my first project in Azerbaijan that I had troubles with health, and when I took a break and went back to the UK, I got tested, and I had we call it bowel cancer in the UK, but I think it's more widely known as cancer of the colon. So that had a big toll on my life in around 2008, more than 10 years ago now. But I was operated on successfully and recovered fully, and I've never really looked back since. I feel I'm on a second life, and I'm making the most of it. So that pretty much takes you up to retirement stage, I suppose, Kim, and post-retirement has been equally fascinating.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And with your health challenge, you're now fully recovered, aren't you?
I'm fully recovered. I've been clear for more than 10 years, 11 years now, in fact. So I'm very grateful for that. But it did get me involved with social media. It's interesting how sort of life takes turns. But I found, well, I was on Facebook first, but that was purely a family thing. My daughters were on Facebook, so I kept in touch with what they were doing. I suppose you could say I was spying on them because I didn't communicate much on Facebook. I was a watcher, or a lurker, as you call it.
A lurker. Yeah, that's interesting. You just one thing, just as an aside, a random aside. You mentioned that you use the word master, or master a skill or a profession, something like that. I've heard some people say that, or postulate that to achieve mastery in any given area, you need about 10,000 hours. I don't know if you've heard of that before. 10,000 hours of dedicated effort and application of what you've been learning and all the rest of it before you really master anything. I don't know how accurate that is, and whether, you know, it's just a generalization. I imagine there'd be differences between, you know, one industry, one profession, one vocation and another. And of course, it's a bit subjective as to what mastery actually means. But you mentioned that it was 8 years before you got to that, 8 years of study and all of it, all the rest of it, before you're at a level of, well, significant competence. May not say mastery, but significant competence. Would that be fair to say, around that 8-year mark, that you're feeling that you're quite competent?
Yeah, part of that, of course, is I decided I was getting towards the end of the 4th year in my apprenticeship, that spending the rest of my life fixing mechanical equipment wasn't for me. So I decided to go to university. So I had a plan change which extended the period of my education. In terms of the metric you quote, I don't know if that's an accurate metric or not, but it does take a long time. People try to become masters of marketing in a year or 2 years. Well, I don't believe that's possible. Mastery of any subject does take a long time, and one has to learn a lot. One has to be determined about what one's doing, and one has to do things repeatedly. You have to do things by routine, and that takes time. Time is the important factor in that, and time is something that's very precious. And in terms of trying to take shortcuts in life, I don't think that works, to be honest, unless you're a bank robber.
Yeah, absolutely. That's someone said that the difference between one of the overarching characteristics of the criminal mind is that they want it now and they don't care who they take it from. So it's kind of the worst example of the desire for instant gratification that you could think of. You know, they want it now and they don't care who they're going to take it from. So, but when we're looking at marketers, I mean, it's a very good point that you brought up, that oftentimes they're a bit like that. They kind of want it now. They want the instant result. They're looking for the next fix. Instant gratification junkies. And although people don't, I don't know whether mastery is something that very many people ever attain. But let's put mastery to one side and say competence. You can get to a level of competence. That probably won't take 10,000 hours. It might take a couple of thousand hours, but it's still going to require, like what you said, some people want to get there in 3 months. Or 6 months. They want to be making money in their first month, and sometimes that does happen, but in the main it does not happen. And but even if you do get lucky and you make some money, it doesn't mean you're at a point of competence. Maybe you just got lucky. Maybe you brought some skills to the table that you could implement straight away and get some kind of a quick result. But to get to the point of true competence, it's going to take many years, isn't it?
Well, that's right, and I think it's all very good for the gurus to say that my customers are making money in the first week. I mean, it's a big lottery. I mean, some people do win the lottery, and some people do get success in the first week. But let's not sell it as normal, because it's not normal. I think that's what I
now. Yeah, it's not normal. It's definitely not typical. As you know, we've got this challenge starting next week, and there may be some people who do the challenge who will make 1 or 2 or 3 sales. It may be. I don't know. There may be some people who will generate some leads. There probably will be. I'm confident that will happen. And then maybe 1 or 2 of those people will make a couple of sales, but that doesn't mean that you're competent. That just means that you implemented a simple strategy that we taught you, and you're able to get a result. That result is not going to. You're probably not going to be able to parlay that result into $200,000 this year or next. All we're saying is that, hey, sometimes you can get a quick result, but there's a world of difference between getting a quick result and changing your financial future, and obviously achieving that vaunted level of competence that I think everybody needs to be shooting for. All right, a bit of a digression there, but I'm kind of on topic. So, okay, so you started looking around for a way, because the window on your engineering profession was closing. your engineering activities. So you wanted to continue. You needed to continue to generate income. Now that you moved back to the UK, and you decided to look at different options other than internet marketing. Was there anything else that you looked at that you kind of thought, well, maybe there's a possibility there, but for whatever reason you said no to? Was there anything else that you looked at, or was it just right off the bat it was internet marketing?
As I say, I touched on the cancer experience. That led me into social media. I used to have spent a lot of time on Twitter, where I was tweeting as Cancer Matters. And in a short period of time, because of my story, I built up a fairly heavy following, and it was kind of inspiration stuff, and it was all helping me recover. It was putting me into the positive frame of mind. I tend to not call it mindset. If I've got one thing about social media, mindset is so overused in my view. But my attitude was that it helped me recover. It taught me gratitude, and gratitude kept me in a healthy, positive frame of mind. And moving on from Twitter, technology was changing. Photographs could now be taken with your hand phone, etc. And I picked up a hobby of photography, and I've spent a lot of time on Instagram posting photographs. Built up a large following on Instagram, and I thought, well, is there a way of monetizing that? And that pulled me into what I'm doing now, really. It's taken me a long way away from Instagram and my photographs, but it's what pulled me into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and you started to dabble with blogging as well, didn't you?
Well, I then realized that there was things happening on the internet. How could I best monetize what I've been doing? And so it sort of started me on a journey, and just to find out how this new economy works. And the blog seemed a natural way to document that journey. I've not been a successful blogger because I've been learning so many different things as I've been progressing along the journey. And I need to go back to blogging to bring it up to date. But I blog as the Wealthy Sage, and I've got an Instagram account of that name as well as the website. I have to do more on that, but of course it's at the expense of the other things I'm doing. At the moment, my focus is on Facebook, and I've found that to be the most fruitful route to traffic, generating leads and things. And I've done enough now to know that it works, Kim. So I'm very enthusiastic about it. And I think I've learned enough now about the things which people should concentrate on and what they should avoid. And my next round of blogging will be about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can see a kind of a stair-step situation, a social media stair-step with you. You started communicating with people on Twitter, like-minded people who had similar health challenges to yourself. So you started. You became. You started to learn how to communicate with people on a social media platform such as that, and then you had your experience with Instagram, build a following there. So you can see that. I can see that in many respects, when you started becoming much more active on Facebook, it was really just a natural extension for you, because you'd already accumulated some wisdom and perhaps technique or whatever. So it was made it perhaps faster for you, faster on the uptake in terms of communicating with people on a platform like Facebook. I certainly know that with your group, although it's not a big group, but it is growing. It's definitely been growing in the last week or so. You're getting very good levels of engagement there, and so it's a very nice thing to see. Plenty of engagement, and folks, for those of you who are watching this, if you're not getting engagement on your content or on your personal profile, your group, or even if you've got a business page, you can't. How can you build a warm audience? How can you build a community of supporters and people who like what you're doing? You've got to do that. So you're really you're doing great with getting the engagement levels up, etc. So good. It's good to see, mate. Good to see.
Well, I think the engagement is very important, and engagement is about presence. You need to be present, and you need to visit people's sites, and you need to make comments, and you need to get to know them as well as you can within the constraints of the fact that you're not face to face. But the presence is important, I think.
Definitely. And what about the use of the messenger tool? Because you use that quite a bit as well, don't you?
So what I've found is the most effective thing in the beginning is Facebook and Messenger. And obviously, engagement is one thing in terms of that's open communication. But if you want to have a business conversation, you need to move it elsewhere, and Messenger is a Facebook add-on, so to speak. So they link in an excellent way. Anything private, I take onto Facebook. So if you're trying to convert a prospect into a sale, you can't do that. You shouldn't be doing that on Facebook where everybody can see. There's some things are better done than private.
Yeah, that's very true. And with your usage or use of the messenger tool, is it just text-based messaging, or do you also do voice calls and video calls?
I've not used it for video calls. I have used Messenger for personal calls. Generally, when you get to, I've found that a number of people have come to me who've had particular problems, and they just generally and genuinely are seeking help. And I usually end up having conversations with that type of audience.
So it's mainly text-based messaging or conversations?
I'm still at a stage where I'm mainly text-based, but increasingly it's moving towards conversations. And I think for conversion, you need to move to conversation.
Voice calls.
Yeah.
Voice and or video calls. Sometimes, I've done plenty of those, but not always on Facebook. Sometimes I use Zoom. So that's another good platform. The good thing about Zoom is you can share the screen. So if you want to show someone a proposal or some idea or something like that, you can share the screen, which you certainly can't do with Messenger. All right. Well, this is great. Very interesting. So we're sort of getting kind of close to the end now. A couple more questions. Can you think? This one's just a bit random, but can you think of, let's say, all your travels over the years, your craziest experience? Can you think of something, just something that stands out?
What stands out most from my travel experience? It's been dominated by work, to be fair. Ken, but it's taken me to some amazing places. And maybe one very close to you is Siem Reap. I mean, the civilization that was there centuries ago, and the buildings which are still standing are quite amazing. And just to think that some Frenchman just happened to stumble on that is quite remarkable. So there's things like that. The other extreme, of course, is visiting places like Hong Kong. I put a pipeline across the East Lama shipping lane, which is the busiest shipping lane in the world, and the barge crew who had to operate that barge to lay a pipeline across it had to rely on communicating well with shipping so that they weren't mowed down by these enormous great tankers. But Hong Kong itself is just a fascinating place, and quite remarkable. And by the time I got there, the mobile phones, the smartphones, you were able to take remarkable photographs, and that prompted an interest in architecture. And I spend a lot of time, or I used to spend a lot of time on Instagram regarding architecture and some of the amazing photographs of skyscrapers and things around the world. So
Yeah.
mainly work, but of course the cuisine's different in every country as well. But in terms of standing out, it's basically people and places. I'm most fortunate for the experiences I've been able to gain through work.
Yeah, I bet you met some fascinating people over the years in those different locations.
I have, and the Far Eastern mentality is quite different to the Western mentality. If I'm by myself, somebody will always come up and speak to me. And when you dig in deeply, why is that happening? The Far Eastern people are never alone, and they're concerned that I must be lonely if I'm by myself, and therefore they'll come up and speak to me, and always polite and always willing to be helpful in any way they can. Quite different mentality to what we have in the Western world.
Yeah, very, very true. No doubt about it. All right, and just if we finish on a business note, what thinking about new people coming into the industry, what advice would you give them?
Well, quite quite a lot actually, and I'll be documenting it in my next blog whenever I get back to blogging. But the first thing is, don't do it alone. There are so many pitfalls out there, and there's so many things that you don't need to do that people tell you you must do. I say don't do it alone. Get help. Ask for help. Find somebody who will share their experience with you. And there's plenty of people out there to find who will do that. So number one is don't do it alone. I think the second thing is about you need to invest in yourself. You can't. We're talking about mastery earlier, but you can't do that overnight. So you do have to invest in your own education, your own self-development. So you have to get to know things sufficiently well so that you do believe you can do it. If you don't have self-belief, I think you're just not going to make it. So the personal development side is most important. Trust, commitment, all these things, determination to succeed, they're all important. So there's a lot of mind things there which you need to get to terms with. I'm maybe duplicating a little bit here, but less is more. Don't try and cover too many things. One thing at a time. Don't try and get into the one thing at a time. You must have focus. I've tried to, yeah.
The one thing.
I've tried to do email marketing. I've tried to do blogging. They all take a lot of time to learn, and you don't need them at the beginning. I think my advice would be get help, get onto Facebook. You can get all the help you require there, or you can find the people who can help you, and get your business established before you start worrying about the technological things. You don't have to fear these. You can attend to them once you start scaling your business. Don't feel they're necessary to have before you start, because you don't need them in the beginning. That would be my view anyway, having gone through what I've gone through. Declutter, most important. Free up space to get your mind clear to do things. The declutter is most important, and I'm still decluttering from all the avenues I've opened up. Curb your curiosity, because it's your curiosity that leads to the shiny object syndrome. It's real. I can tell you it's real. I've been there, and I'm still trying to declutter as a result.
Yes. Well, it's an ongoing project for all of us, I think, at different times through the year. Yeah. Now you're running a free training. You've got that coming up. Do you want to just mention that?
Well, I think I haven't even touched on the marketing side, Ken. I mean, there's obviously the niche is important. You've got to understand your niche. You need to define your avatar, and you need to be passionate about what you do. If you pick a niche which you have no passion for, you're never going to enthuse people. You have to be enthusiastic about your subject to enthuse people. So getting into the marketing side, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. But I'm not a marketer, and in retirement, I have no real aspirations to become a marketer. I do want to earn money to fund my travel aspirations, and I don't want to spend all my savings in terms of maintaining lifestyle, etc. So I do want to maintain my lifestyle, and I plan to start coaching. So I'm going to start a masterclass which will actually take people through all the things I've learned in my journey, and help them get started. If they're stuck, I think I can help them get unstuck, because I've had to go through that process myself. And don't be frightened about the technology. I think it's a fear for many people, and it's a cause for them getting stuck. But don't worry about the technology until you're ready to scale your business. If you're not in a position to scale your business, you're not in a position to need technology. That's simple as that. Too many distractions. Probably after one, don't do it alone. Distraction is the second big thing in this business, I think.
Yeah, boy, yeah. Sometimes we feel like we're kids in candy shops, as the Americans say. I feel like I'm a kid in a candy shop. But so many temptations, so many potential distractions. All right, are there any final thoughts that you can share before we close, Will?
Well, I think I've swept quite a broad range of things, and I'm here. I've learned a lot. I've had a great learning experience. It's almost, it'll be 2 years in April. Next April, it'll be 2 years since I really started. I've gone through so many learning experiences you wouldn't believe. And I think my background in commerce and education will enable me to pass on what I learned to others, and I aim to help those who need it succeed. And by all means, anybody watching, reach out to me, and I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's great. And people can join your group, Web Wealth Clan. A good Scottish name there.
Yes, I'm so Scottish, living in Manchester.
Scottish is living in Manchester, which is in the north east of England, isn't it?
Northwest.
Northwest. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry. God, I lived in London for 5 years and I forgot that. Yeah, northwest, that's exactly right.
Yeah, York is on the east side and Manchester on the west. About
I've been to Manchester, and then on from there you've got, you ran that area. What have you got? Bolton and Liverpool further on.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's great to hear I'm sure people were captivated by your stories and your Scottish accent. That sounds fantastic to me. I love listening to the Scottish accent.
Well, I hope Annabelle can understand me.
Oh, yeah, I think even the Americans will be able to understand you, no problem. You speak in a kind of a cultured tone, so that's fine. All right, well, that's great. I don't think there are any questions there, but if people have got questions, they can certainly locate you easy enough and go to join Will's group, Web Wealth Clan, and he will surely give you a very warm welcome. Let me just check here. Questions. No, that's fine. All right. Well, that's great. Take a swig of water there, as I will, and I'll do the same. And look forward to another in the series. I'll probably run another one. I'm thinking of running a session. I'll definitely run some more sessions with members, but I'm wanting to run a session. Perhaps the next session. He is technically a member of the Tri-Builder Community Group, although he is not active in the Tri-Builder Community Group. But he's has a lot of online experience. He's worked with companies more on the technical side, email automation, etc. And I think you'd find people who plug into that one will find him quite interesting, and then I'll be bantering with him. We banter pretty well, and I'm talking about my son Damien. So I'm thinking the next one will be with Damien, and then the one after that will be with I'll select another bona fide member of the Tri-Builder Community Group. So that's all I need to say there. And for those of you who are participating in the if I mention this might date this might date the replay a bit, but we've got a challenge coming up called Turbo Sales Challenge. So for those of you who are participating, look forward to seeing you on in the challenge next week. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. All right. Well, once again, Will, thanks very much for giving us your time and your thoughts and your wisdom, and have a good rest of day for you.
Thank you very much, Kim. I'm most grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.